Years ago, in the valleys, delta, and hills of Mississippi, lived many tribes of Indians. Their names were the Acolapissa, from the shores of the Pearl River along the Gulf Coast, the Biloxi, the Chocchuma, ancestors of the Homa tribe along the upper Yazoo River region, the Caddo people, another coastal tribe, the Chickasaw, the Choctaw, the Korowa from the northwest of the state, the Mosapalea of the upper Ohio River, who later would move and settle in the southwest portion of our state, the Natchez, the Pascagoula, the Toposa, who lived close to the Yazoo River near the Chocchuma and Chickasaw tribes, the Tunica of the central Mississippi Valley, the Yazoo, a tribe of the Tunica people who settled in the lower course of the Yazoo River, and the Yawanis, a Choctaw people who established a town near the Chickasaw River. Great battles were fought for land, food, and trade goods. Many tribes moved elsewhere for a better quality of life. Many native peoples were forced from their homes and struggled to survive. Few remain today. Today our lodges draw from the traditions and lore of these tribes, much as our order draws inspiration and lore from the Delawares. Some of our regalia, stories, buildings, campsites, councils, and lodge names can all be traced back to native stewards of the land we call home. But we can be further inspired by them. Our lodges have a great history of their own. Watonala Lodge, formerly known as Pushmataha Lodge, named after the great Choctaw chieftain, was organized by the East Mississippi Boy Scout Council, now Pushmataha Area Council, in the fall of 1929. In December of that year, the Scout Executive and 15 other candidates were inducted into the Order of the Arrow. At the time, the council had no permanent camp, so the first ordeal was held in West Point, Mississippi, at a camp called properly Pushmataha. On September 1st, 1939, 5 scouters from the Pushmataha Area Council attended an area fellowship meeting of the Order of the Arrow at Camp Andrews in Birmingham, Alabama. These 5 scouters received education in the Order of the Arrow. Upon returning to Pushmataha Area Council, these 5 scouters revived and became the members of the Pushmataha Lodge, number 169. The lodge would later be named Watonala, meaning white water bird. The first recorded instance of this name was in early 1942. Chickasaw Lodge, named after the first chief of the mighty Chickasaw Nation, began through the efforts of C.L. Scotty Carlisle, who was scoutmaster of a troop in Corinth, Mississippi. Scotty had moved to northeast Mississippi from Atlanta, Georgia, where he had also worked with scouting. In 1941, Scotty brought a team from Atlanta to conduct the induction ceremony with Alex Baylor as the chief of that team. The introduction of the group took place at the first of 2 weeks of summer camp. The boys inducted at the first ceremony served to induct a group during the last week of camp. This group of airmen makes up the charter members of Chickasaw 202. The lodge has been chartered and very active since that time. Ashawantakinta Lodge was chartered in 1941 in the Choctaw Area Council, located in Meridian, Mississippi. Its first initiation took place at Camp Benacci during summer camp on July 19, 1941. Ashawantikenta Lodge changed its name from Choctaw Lodge sometime after 1955. The Ashawantikenta Lodge totem is a beaver. In 1948, the lodge joined with Pine Burr, Andrew Jackson, Pushmataha Area Council, and 2 from Louisiana to form what was called Area 5E. Ashawantikenta hosted the first area conclave at Camp Seminole in 1950. Sabuniakasuka Lodge was organized in 1942, chartered in 1943, and installed on May 5, 1944. The lodge name Sabuniakasuka means Old Hickory, Andrew Jackson's nickname. From the late 1940s through the mid-1950s, the lodge emblem depicted Andrew Jackson riding on his horse, an image taken from the statue of Andrew Jackson in Jackson Square, New Orleans. The first emblem was a white felt diamond with red silkscreen design and lettering. The emblem was designed to be worn on the sash. The first lodge chief was Pat Clendenning of Jackson, Mississippi, and the first lodge advisor was Claude Thompson of Vicksburg, Mississippi. The lodge's activities were based at Camp Kickapoo. In 1987, when the council opened the Warren A. Hood Scout Reservation, the lodge moved its activities there. Teoc Lodge was formed through the efforts of Harvey Woodard and Klein Coquette, both of Biloxi, Mississippi. The lodge was formed on December 4, 1948, by a team from Sabuniakasuka Lodge. They inducted 65 members on that day. The induction was held at Camp Towanda near Wiggins, Mississippi. The first lodge chief was Cliff Wallace, and the first advisor was J.P. Kislanko. Teoc Lodge helped to create and construct their current camp, Camp Teoc, which opened in 1955. Their lodge name means tall pine, and their totem is the pine bird. The first patch was not a flap. It was an arrowhead shape with a pine cone centered on it. The first time this patch was given, it was on a dark green neckerchief and issued to the charter members of the lodge. In 1992, Teoc Lodge was home to Damian Hutto, who during that year served as the national vice chief. Ahoyland Notchpeckin Lodge began in 1994. The fall fellowship of that year was a joint event between Coyatachi and Chickasaw lodges. The Chickasaw and Delta councils were in the process of merging. The fall elections were held during the fellowship at Camp Tallahaw, located outside Charleston, Mississippi, to select the new lodge executive council. Later, the newly elected lodge officers met at the Chickasaw Council office to determine the new lodge totem and name. After several attempts, they selected the black bear and the name Ahoyland Notchpeckin, which means we who love the outdoors. The new lodge was officially chartered January 1st, 1995. Coyatachi, originally the White Panther Lodge, was organized in 1946 by Mr. Hudson, who was a scout executive of the Delta Area Council. The first tap-out was held at summer camp in July 1946. The first 6 members of the lodge were summer camp staffers. The first meeting of the newly formed lodge was in December of 1947. Officers for 1948 were elected at that time. The name White Panther was used from 1946 to 1956 when the lodge changed its name to Coyatachi. Most lodges had adopted Indian names, and Lodge 345 wanted to conform. Coyatachi was thought to mean White Panther in the Choctaw language. However, it was later realized to not actually have a meaning. Chickasaw Lodge first began at Camp Kayakima in 1948. Every week during summer camp, the campers who best exemplified the Scout Oath and Law were led to a secret campfire circle in the woods and given an Indian name. They would then meet periodically throughout the year. Chickasaw Lodge held its first ordeal ceremony there on August 7, 1948, by a ceremonial team from Watonala Lodge 235 of the West Tennessee Area Council. It adopted the Thunderbird as its lodge totem, as the Thunderbird was already the emblem of Camp Kayakima. Chickasaw Lodge held its first Brotherhood ceremony in the spring of 1950. It then held its first vigil ceremony on December 14, 1952 at Camp Courier. Our lodges have been served by others, as we serve other lodges. This is exemplified in the founding of our lodges. On April 20th, 1946, Ashewanshikenta sent a team to conduct the first ordeal for Lodge 322, White Fang Lodge of Mobile Area Council, at Camp Pushmataha in Citronelle, Alabama. Ashewanshikenta performed the first ordeal ceremony for Aracoma Lodge number 481 at Camp Horn on August 9, 1952. An ordeal team from Teoc conducted the first ordeal ceremony for Chilantacopa Lodge number 397 at Camp Seminole on March 25th and 26th, 1949. They inducted 36 members in the rain. Brothers at Camp Andrews in Birmingham, Alabama educated and inducted the 5 members who revived Watonala Lodge. In 1941, a team from Atlanta helped found Chickasaw Lodge. A team from Caddo Lodge 149 in Shreveport, Louisiana, inducted the first members of Sabuni-Akasuka. Years later, Sabuni-Akasuka would perpetuate the tradition by initiating the first members of Teoc Lodge. Chickasaw Lodge was founded on August 7, 1948 by a ceremonial team from Itawamba Lodge 235 of the West Tennessee Area Council. Our lodges have also learned to lean on each other. As our order's legend states, springtime blossomed into summer. Summer into autumn ripened. Autumn died on winter's bosom. Thus seasons in succession, never ending, seemed to pass on. Chingachgook, aged chieftain of the tribe, inquired who will go and carry warning of this dire and dreadful danger to all Delawares, our brothers. Then spoke up the noble Uncas, the chief's son. "O my father, I am ready. Send me on this gracious errand. If we would remain a nation, we must stand by one another. Let us both urge on our kindred, firm devotion to our brothers and our cause, ourselves forgetting. Let us catch the higher vision. Let us find the greater beauty in this life of cheerful service." Today, we do not fight to remain a nation. However, we strengthen our bonds of brotherhood through fellowship, competition, and camaraderie. The years have passed. Our lodges, once together, have been separated, reunited, and separated again through region and section alignments. Yet today, we come together again. Together, we are bound in this great and honored order, welding tightly every link. We see today the native nations that have occupied this land before us have declined. Many tribes simply do not exist today. We remain today Mississippi's lodges, united. United in brotherhood, united in cheerfulness, and in service. We therefore grow stronger, so that we may help our brothers, sections, and order grow stronger as well. So, we therefore, to them succeeding, to this present day perpetuate the names and tokens of our brotherhood of cheerful service, called by the Delawares Wimoktindink, Wingalausik, Watahimaway.